Hello and welcome back to another edition of the One Hood Power Hour. I'm your host, Royce Jones. A lot has happened since our last program, and we're very excited to be back with you talking about the stories that matter with the people who care. This news program is meant to give you some updates about what's been going on around Pennsylvania, as well as talking with people who are in the news so that you can understand how you're impacted and what you can do to make a difference in your community. Remember, you can ask questions directly to our guests in the chat. So today we have a special program as we sit down with the Justice Slate of 8, an endorsed group of candidates who are running for the May 20th primary election. As a reminder, judges cannot answer questions that are political in nature or about cases that they would possibly have to rule on. As such, we have compiled some questions for our panelists that differ from our usual conversation. So tonight we have Judge Quita Bridges, a 28-year-old career of trial court work. Judge Quita Bridges was appointed to the Court of Common Pleas. She is now running to get elected to maintain her position. Quita believes that justice is not just about applying the law, it's about ensuring fairness, dignity, and compassion for all people. Judge Alyssa Cohen, raised in Monroeville. Judge Alyssa Cohen is a proud Pitt faculty union member, experienced lawyer, and former Social Security worker, recently appointed to the Court of Common Pleas, where she serves within the Family Division. Judge Cohen has spent her 2 decades-long career helping our most vulnerable children and families navigate the complex legal system, and is now running for a full term to continue her work of leading with empathy on Allegheny County's highest court. Amanda Green Hawkins has 25 years of legal experience fighting for fairness in civil and human rights, and as an adjunct professor at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law. She has a record of public service marked by unflinching integrity in the face of threats and repercussions. Amanda knows that treating people with dignity and respect is a commitment to recognizing everyone's humanity and ensuring that all people are heard and receive justice and fairness in our courts. Lauren Leegee will be joining us, and Lauren is a public defender and immigration advocate here in Allegheny County. Her professional career has been dedicated to keeping the government accountable and upholding the Constitution. She's committed to safeguarding the rights of all individuals who live within our borders, including those facing criminal charges. Also, we have Representative Dan Miller. Dan is the eldest son of immigrant parents who has been a public school teacher, an AmeriCorps member, and a volunteer firefighter, as well as a state representative. He has received numerous awards for his disability and mental health advocacy and has authored major criminal and juvenile justice reform bills while in the legislature. Dan has served as a public defender, a county solicitor, and a special education attorney, and he has been highly recommended by the Bar Association. Judge Craig Stevens is also with us. Craig Stevens has been a district judge since 2016 and has presided over 50,000 cases. Judge Stevens practices fair and balanced justice. Judge Stevens is a graduate of Duquesne University Law School and was a former Allegheny County solicitor and township commissioner. Amy Matthew is here, and Amy is a plaintiff's side civil rights attorney. Her practice focuses on representing victims of workplace discrimination and survivors of sexual abuse. Throughout her career, Amy has focused on representing real people in the courtroom, fighting to make sure that their voices are heard. Also, Judge Matt Rudsky is a part of the Slate of 8. Judge Matt Rudsky currently serves the Fox Chapel area communities as a district judge and is an accomplished attorney, previously serving his hometown of Sharpsburg as mayor and councilman. Also taught for 1 year in Austria on a Fulbright fellowship. An experienced jurist who adheres to the principles of restorative, fair, and accessible justice, Matt has presided over 15,000 cases in his court and volunteers to hear homicide preliminary hearings and other matters at Pittsburgh Municipal Court. All right. I don't think I missed anything. I'm almost out of breath. You guys have such long resumes and have done so much. So I'm really excited to be here talking with you all. I hope you are all doing well and excited to start the chat this evening. So, this is pretty much how this is going to work, you guys. And for those of you who are listening from home, we're going to go around and we're going to ask each candidate one question, and then we're just going to kind of branch off conversation style, and we will let them kind of pick up questions as we dive into all of the topics that we want to get to this evening. So, the first question that I'm going to go around and ask all of you is, what does it mean for you to be part of the judicial slate of 8? So I'll go all the way back up to the top, and let's go ahead and start with Judge Bridges. Hi, Judge Bridges. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Very well, very well. So yeah, our first question for you this evening is, what does it mean to be a part of all of this, to be a part of this judicial slate of 8?
Well, it is I'm very honored, I would say, to be a part of the Justice Slate, um, to be a part of a group of people who accepted the kind of work that I have done and that, can appreciate the type of decisions that I have made in my career and to want to allow me to be a part of a group of people who have the same kinds of background and ideals about where our society and how our society should be moving forward. Honored to be a part of this group of well qualified individuals, and that's what I would say. It's just an honor to be here tonight and to be with these my other colleagues who we all kind of believe in the same things.
Nice. Thank you, Judge Bridges. We'll go ahead right on down the line to Amanda Green Hawkins. Hey, Amanda, how are you?
Royce, I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, thank you. So the question is, what are some, excuse me, I read the wrong one. The question is, what does it mean for you to be a part of all of this, to be a part of the slate of 8?
Well, first is I was very honored, like Judge Bridges was saying, to be considered for this endorsement. And there are a lot of candidates in this race, and to be part of the slate of 8 it means a lot. It means that there are people who are in my community, the very community where I live, work, and play, who recognize my work within that community and see me as someone who can be fair, who treats people with dignity and respect, and that I walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And I think that sends a loud and clear message to the community about me and my credibility, and that I am definitely one of the people that the community should vote for in this upcoming election, along with the entire slate. It means a lot.
Yes. Thank you, Amanda. Rep Dan Miller. Hey, Dan, how are you? I think we have you. Oh, wait.
Yeah, I got you. Sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
there
good
we
to see you.
go.
All right.
Likewise. So that's our question for you. What does it mean to be a part of the slate of 8?
Yeah, look, I love yeah, obviously you heard about the honor. Anytime you get an endorsement from people who are paying mind, paying attention, trying to elevate some issues, it means something. So it means that that people believe that you can do a good job, that there's 8 spots here that can do a transformational impact into the courts, which I think is exciting as well. It's a sort of a big generational push in. So, look, I'm excited. It means that we got something moving, and hopefully we're connecting with people, and that people are liking what we're offering. And like I said, very honored, very excited to be part of it.
Nice. Thanks, Dan. Judge Alyssa Cohen. Hey.
Hi there. Yes, I was absolutely thrilled to receive the Justice Slate endorsement. I was really impressed by the process. The questionnaire was really well written, very thought provoking, made all of us do our due diligence. The interview process was also fantastic. Everyone was just very engaged in taking the time to make sure that all of us were well vetted. The Justice Slate is composed of a number of the best, most passionate community voices and leaders in Allegheny County. And I am just absolutely honored to have the trust of all of those organizations in the role that I'm serving as judge on the Court of Common Pleas and the Family Division. And I will take that trust that the community has put in me and take that very seriously, and return that with really good practice from the bench. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Judge Cohen. Judge Craig Stephens, how are you this evening?
Good, Royce. How are you? Glad to be here.
Very well. We're so glad to have you. What does it mean for you to be a part of this slate of 8?
Well, I was very honored to get the endorsement, as Judge Collins said, that it was a very detailed questionnaire, and I think all of us were vetted. I know I was interviewed twice by different folks, and I think that it shows that they've picked people of the same mindset who want to move the justice system forward. I think that they looked at, obviously our experience and our impact that we've had in the legal community, and some of us with, that are currently judges, the impact we've had with the judicial system. So I'm very excited and honored, and hopefully, we're getting the message out that we've got 8 great candidates here on the slate, and I'm proud to be part of it. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. And Amy Matthew. Hey, Amy, how are you?
Good, Royce. How are you?
Well, thank you. What does it mean for you to be part of the judicial slate of 8?
Yeah, I think it means a few things, right? I think that it's an honor to receive the endorsement from such transformative and powerful groups in Pittsburgh that are working to make our community better every day. So to hear them reflect that in us is important, right? That we are working towards the same goals as these communities organizers. I think the other thing is it's an honor to be with these 7 other candidates. We all have different experience. We all have different backgrounds, both professional and personal. So we all bring a different perspective, but I think that we all come at this with the same goals in mind, and that's to make our justice system work for everyone in the county and to make it more accessible. So I think it's great to have 8 candidates that have that shared vision.
Yes, 100%. And again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, you all have such robust careers and different experiences, and so it's such an honor to be here with all of you. And I'm really excited for the viewers. I've had the chance to speak with most of you one-on-one, and I'm really excited for them to hear what you have to say and hopefully inform and enlighten people tonight. So with that said, I want to get to our first question that we have this evening, which is, what are some common misconceptions that you find people have about the law? Again, this is up for grabs for anybody who wants to answer, and it'd be great to hear from maybe 2 or 3 of you on this. So whoever wants to go first.
I'll jump in. We've been on the campaign trail since December, all of us since January for the most part. And I think to me, a common misconception is that the work that we do is always in the courtroom, that we are always on trial, that we're always doing trials in the courtroom. And the fact is that I believe the stat in Allegheny County here is that over 95% of civil cases and criminal matters settle, meaning they don't go to trial at all, or there are plea arrangements made, so there are no trials at all. And there is a lot of work behind the scenes that lawyers are doing with what we call discovery, where you're exchanging information. Each side is exchanging information to understand the nature of claims and to also test the strength of the cases. And so a lot of times that is what helps the party understand the value of what they would bring to a trial, and probably helps them decide to make some sort of deal or to settle a case. So when people are thinking you're always in court and we're always going on trial, that's generally not the case. And I think most people would be surprised by that.
I think in my experience, a lot of the misconceptions are that, people do have rights, number one, and they have access to, obviously, legal representation through the public defender's office if they cannot afford an attorney. They also have obviously right to have a hearing. For example, a traffic stop You know, they have a right to plead not guilty, have a hearing in front of the district judge. And people also have to understand that they have appeal rights, especially at my level, at the magisterial district court level. There's appeal rights from every decision that a magisterial judge makes. And so people do have access. And there's also, you know, neighborhood legal services, legal aid, and different organizations that help folks that need assistance. So that's the experience I've had with people that may have that misconception about the rights that they have to access to legal services and legal help.
I would like
Cool.
to, I believe a misconception is that when parties see like the attorneys, when they're on opposite sides, let's say the prosecution defense, and they see them talking and friendly with one another, and they think that some kind of they're in cahoots. Sometimes they believe that that's happening because they're not all arguing and fighting. It is an adversarial process, but in order to really come to a conclusion of how a case should be resolved, people have to sometimes get along. And so when sometimes defendants and families see the counsel working together, they think that there is some kind of like, I just say cahoots going on, like they're in it together to get something done. But it really is, you have to work with the people on the opposite side. And if you're always adversarial and you can't work well with people, then you don't get the case resolved in the way that it probably should get resolved. And so I think it is a misconception that the lawyers have to be mad at each other or don't talk to each other in order to get the case to the place where it should be.
And to build off of what Judge Bridges just stated, from the bench, we're not magicians. So that's the other part of this. So it really does take communication between the attorneys and their parties and their clients, the parties on the case. Because I approach my work from the bench as I'm here to help you get what you want out of your day today. But the only way that I can really get everyone what they want here in court today is if you've talked to each other, you've talked about the various options, you've put some thought into the options. And I'm not a magician. And really, people are going to have to walk out of here living with whatever order I issue. So we really need to start talking, and we need to make sure that everybody's like comfortable. Everybody might not be thrilled and happy, but we at least need to make sure everybody's been heard, that everybody has explored all the various options that are available. And I'm here to facilitate that. And I really can't magically solve problems. People are going to have to take some of that role for themselves, because it's ultimately their lives. It's their lives. And I'm there to facilitate and guide and make sure we're doing it within the framework of the law. But I'm not a magician. So I think a lot of people walk into the courthouse thinking, oh, we're just gonna, magically all of a sudden, these people that I was previously fighting with and not getting along with, it's just going to be like, poof, that magic wand will be waved. And it's like, well, I have some tools, but we all need to work together and talk about those tools and how we can resolve this issue in a way that we can all live with and be safe with. So.
Yeah, I love where this is going. Let's hear from the rest of you too. Amy and Dan. I'm from my viewpoint. Amy, you're first because you're on the left, and then Dan. So Amy, I'll let you grab that too. And in case you need, I'll just restate the question, and that is some misconceptions that you find people have about the law.
Yeah, I think that one thing, especially on such a local level, is that people, when they think of lawyers and when they think of courtrooms, they think of criminal law, right? They've all seen Law and Order. They've all seen Law and Order SVU, Law and Order Criminal Intent, the 500 spinoffs of Law and Order. So when I say I'm a civil attorney, half the people look at me sideways and are like, I don't know what that means, right? And so I think one of the misconceptions is how important the civil system of law is in the state and federally. When you think about abortion care, when you think about LGBT rights to marry, those are things that are decided in the civil courtroom. And you may not think about them every day like you do the criminal or the family, because you know people who've gone through that. But I think one of the misconceptions is how important the civil court system is here.
Dan, how about
Yeah.
you?
Well, I thought Quita gave a very good answer in relation to the dynamics in a courtroom and how sometimes that can be, confusing to some. I also didn't realize how much Judge Cowan is going to talk about magic. She had a lot of magic references. That was pretty good. Look, one of the things that I think that jumped out to me is, again, I take it a little personal. I know Lauren's not here either with it, but a lot of people come up with the idea that public defenders don't work hard. I always kind of that always bothered me, right? So as a former public defender, I know Lauren is one currently, and I know Quita has worked with many public defenders, and I'm sure that she could tell you that public defenders sweat. The vast majority work incredibly hard, and it was always something that just stuck out to me, where somebody just assumed because we were a public defender that somehow we didn't know the law or we weren't going to fight hard. So that bothered me, but more in relation to the race. I think what gets me sometimes is that people think that voting for judge doesn't matter, right? That it's a race that you don't have to think about, that it's not something for you to put much thought into, that there is no difference. And I think that misconception can be a missed opportunity. So I think that the judges do matter. I think that a lot of people talk about whether or not judges should or should not be elected. I get that. The reality of it is here in Pennsylvania that millions of Pennsylvanians have a chance in 2 weeks, roughly, to cast their vote. And I guarantee you that understanding the perspective that somebody brings to the bench, some of their their history, so you get an idea of how they're going to view some issues with it, it does matter. And you have a chance to decide, is this person going to be someone that you would be comfortable with if your loved one was in front of them? And that's how impactful these decisions are. So the misconception often is that voting for judges don't matter. That's wrong. It's a big opportunity, and we got to be sure people make their voices heard on May 20th.
Nice. Thank you guys for answering. Before we move to our next question, we do want to welcome Lauren. Lauren's just joined us in the studio, so we will let her enter the chat now. Hey, Lauren, how are you?
Hi, good. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
Welcome. Of course. So we've answered a couple of questions. I did want to give you the opportunity real quick. I went around before you joined and asked each of the candidates a single question, and I want you to have the opportunity to answer that too. And that question was, what does it mean for you to be a part of all of this and be a part of this slate of 8? So everybody has answered this, and they're keeping their answers under 2 minutes. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much for having me. And I mean, I think the slate of 8, being a part of it, it is a great time and an opportunity to keep the movement going forward from everything that was accomplished starting in 2018, 2021, and now again. I think now everything, I'm sure everyone has talked about what's going on the national level, all the issues going on right here in Allegheny County, and truly having people who are in the community, who have worked within the systems, myself being a public defender, being an immigration advocate. It's been great to get to know all the other people on the slate, get to know them better, and just really have this opportunity to speak for folks who are often not heard in the criminal court settings. I come from a different background that isn't seen as a traditional judge. And sorry, my cat wants to be a part of the conversation here, like the Zoom times and COVID. But I think it's a really great opportunity to keep making movement here. I think people shouldn't be afraid of the word progressive. To me, that really means community roots, community driven, taking care of our community, looking out for each other, and making sure that we have folks that care about the decisions and that understand this is really lifelong intergenerational impact that we're going to have as judges. And that's what makes me excited to run and to be on with you all tonight to really talk about these issues where I think A lot of people, when I'm door knocking, they don't know what a judge is. They don't know that the election's coming up. And like Dan was saying earlier, it has such lifelong impacts for folks in the community who aren't even born yet. So we really need to have this dialogue. So I thank you all.
All right, thank you. So the next question, I asked you the question of what are some misconceptions that people have about law, but another one that I have for you all is what are some misconceptions, and some of you touched on this, that people may have about judges. So I want to hear from all of you on this. I'll just kind of go down my my squares here on the screen and start with Judge Cowan. Judge Cowan, what are some misconceptions that people have about judges?
Sure. I think sometimes people tend to think all judges are filling the same kind of role. But really, we're in many different, different capacities depending on what court we're a part of. So there are magistrate district judges in the communities. There are the Court of Common Pleas judges, which is the position that all of us are either seeking or we're currently, Judge Bridges and I are sitting in. And that's your trial court level judges that are hearing the evidence, hearing the witnesses firsthand, having the people coming in and out of the courtroom. And then there are the appellate court judges, which are looking at just the record, the transcripts of a case and not hearing directly from those witnesses. And so the importance in those distinctions are just going back to the elections and why these elections matter and why the elections matter so much for Court of Common Pleas judges, because we're the judges who are interacting with the public on that day-to-day basis, where people are coming in, telling their most personal stories, telling how their lives are being, incredibly impacted, often coming into court, having experienced traumatic situations. And it's really the judges, the Court of Common Pleas judges, that are creating that environment, who are creating that safe space, who are entrusted with making sure that people are getting all of their questions answered, that they feel safe telling their stories. And that's where that critical record and that critical decision making is made, is really at that Court of Common Pleas level. And that really that decision making and in our courthouse, in the Court of Common Pleas, whether it's family, criminal, civil, or orphans court, that then essentially lays the foundation for everything that comes after. And if we're not doing a really good job of creating that safe space for everyone to walk into and make sure that they're fully heard by a judge who's patient, empathetic, has a lot of tools to offer in their courtroom, then that's going to have negative ramifications on the appellate level. That's going to create really poor law from the Superior Court, from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So it is really important. These judicial elections are really important. And just to put out a little, right now, the judiciary is what's holding our democracy in place right now. So it is really critically important. So thank you for taking the time tonight with us.
Of course, thank you guys for being here. You guys have way more important stuff to do than I do. I'd be watching Desperate Housewives or something right now if it wasn't for this. So yeah, thank you for giving me something, productive to do. Amanda, how about you? What are some misconceptions that you think people might have about judges?
It seems that a lot of people think that judges are so different from themselves. Like our experience, our background, the way we live our lives is just so far removed from the way most people live their lives and experience life. And people are often surprised when I tell them sometimes about my background and how I grew up, with working class parents. My parents grew up in the segregated South, went to segregated schools, and my dad didn't even finish 8th grade. Sometimes people are surprised when I tell them that I understand what it's like to live in the so-called inner city. This is where I grew up. And I've experienced a lot of the traumas that come from that, with gun violence in my very own family, whether it be, the person who's accused of pulling the trigger or even the victims. And the number of incidents related to gun violence that have happened just in my life. I know that there are many people in the communities who appear in courtrooms over these same issues, who have the same types of traumas. And to be a judge who would understand firsthand those experiences from both sides of the V, as I call it, the verses, the Commonwealth verses, the John Doe, to be someone who understands what the experience is like on both sides of that. I think people could appreciate knowing that there is someone sitting in judgment who actually understands and has been in their shoes.
So thank you. Judge Stevens, how about you? What are some misconceptions you think people have about judges?
I think just to kind of add on to what Alyssa and Amanda were saying is that the misconception is that people might not think we understand that they have problems, that they have issues, that we're not approachable, that we may not listen. At my level as a magisterial district judge, I'm the first level of the judiciary. So I'm hearing all the cases that come in from the different communities, traffic cases, landlord-tenant disputes, civil disputes, truancy cases, code enforcement violations. So, I think the misconception is that, we're people too. I mean, we live in the community and we have different, obviously different roles at different levels of the judiciary, from the magisterial district court of common pleas. You could be in the civil division, the family division, the criminal division, or orphans court, where you'll have different roles in those divisions as a judge, and of course the appellate judges in the Supreme Court. At my level, at the magisterial district court, we're not a court of record. So it's basically, folks come in and they argue their case, and decisions made, and somebody can, file an appeal. So I think that the misconception is that, we may not understand, but we might not be approachable. But certainly we're approachable in the communities. We live in the communities, all of us, and most of us, not all of us, are active in our communities in different roles and different functions.
Thank you. Judge Bridges, how about you? Misconceptions people might have about judges.
Well, I was sitting here thinking about that as everyone was talking. And I think one of the misconceptions is that judges do whatever we want to do in making decisions on perhaps, how a person should be sentenced, for example. Judges are have to work inside a particular kind of guidelines that are handed down to us that we have to follow. And I think that people think that we really can do whatever we want when it comes to, and we do have a lot of avenues that perhaps we could go into, instead of perhaps a person going to jail. But it is still not as easy as a person may think it is to make decisions that go outside the guidelines, and then the things that you have to consider before you make that ultimate decision. Because once you make the decision, you got to stand firm on it. And if something goes awry, you're going to be called to the table about the decision that you made. And so, it's not as easy as one think it is, and it's not something that we could just, I think Judge Cowan said it earlier, we're not magicians. We can't just make things okay for people. We try to do the best we can under the guidelines that we have to work inside. And I think that is something that, people, think we can do whatever it is we want to do, but we still have to kind of balance, justice and accountability and restoration for that individual.
Thank you. Lauren?
It's something, this is something that I deal with a lot with my clients as a public defender. A lot of times they'll say, oh, well, the judge they'll get it right, or, well, the judge has to consider the facts, or, oh, they can make any decision that they want. If I can just talk to them and explain my side of the things, they'll understand where I'm coming from. And that's always really difficult when I have to tell my clients, it's like, look, sometimes, the judge, just like you and me, we all bring in our personal baggage into the courtroom. And even though a judge has to be unbiased, sometimes, it all depends on how the client's presenting, or the facts at hand, or the victim's statement. There's a lot of things that are just not my client's frame of reference that they may not know about. So trying to understand that, so the everyday person in the public of, this is another person who has to follow the law, but there's a lot of things going on that day. That's really hard for the everyday person to understand, because 9 out of 10 times, all my client wants to do is say, hey, this is what I have going on. This is what I need to present to the judge. Why can't we just make this case go away? I didn't do it. And it's always not that simple. We have to follow the rules. We have to follow the procedures. We need to make sure everything's in order, because I also want to make sure that my client's making an informed decision. So I think that's hard. There's all these things that the everyday person just unfortunately doesn't understand. And I think that's also sometimes how the judiciary and the legal system is set up, where the everyday person isn't going to understand the law. So I think that's why it's super important that we have compassionate judges who are willing to be patient and kind and apply the law fairly and take everything into consideration, while understanding, hey, it may take a little bit longer for someone who's never been through the system before to get it.
Thank you, Amy. Misconceptions that people might have about judges.
Yeah, and I think Amanda touched on this earlier, but the idea that lawyers are in the courtroom every day trying cases, I think the same can be said for judges, right? I think one of the most important tools that judges have are conciliating and mediating cases, and trying to resolve them for the parties before anyone has to go to trial. Because 9 times out of 10, that's what's best for both parties, is to not take the risk of trial. And judges have an ability to mediate far greater than our private mediators that we use all the time in civil court, because you can get into a room with a private mediator, and if your client doesn't trust them, or they don't think that they're an authority on the subject, you're not going to get very far. But you have that trust built in when a judge is the one in the courtroom who's conciliating or mediating a case. And so I think that one of the most important things judges can do is bring both parties to the table and try and find a resolution or compromise before you end up spending weeks in a trial.
And Dan.
Yeah, thanks. I was at a conference not too long ago in Harrisburg, and we were talking about trauma. And, in a conversation I had with a judge, I talked about a situation as a firefighter where I lost a 3-year-old. And, just my experience through that process. Interestingly, what I did not expect was the judge sharing the trauma that impacted them from just the cases, the responsibility, and then when they got it wrong. And that, that can occasionally happen, obviously, right? So nobody is infallible. So it was very interesting to me to just kind of spend some time to listen to the judge share something that they had gone through all the process, they had listened to all the information, they had studied every aspect of what was presented to them, and they made a decision, on the case, and thought that it was the correct one, and it might have actually been the correct one, but no judge can tell the future. That judge could not tell the future. And the ramification of that not only had issues for parties in the case, but had issues internally to the judge. And they had their own processing that had to be done. All too often in the courts, trauma is there. The stress of the job is there. We can be seeing, attorneys or judges can be seeing the very worst days and the very most unfortunate aspects of the human experience. And then have to make a decision based on that. There's a weight that comes to that responsibility. And I think that coming face to face and having the judge share so much of perhaps their worst day on the bench is something that I remember.
All right. Thank you all for answering that. The next question that I have for you, and I'm thinking maybe, because I have a couple others that I want to get to question-wise. So, and I want to hear from all of you. So maybe if we keep them, I'm going to cut the time just a little bit, maybe by like 30 seconds. If we can do like a minute Yeah, like a minute 30 would be maybe good. For responses, and I'm gonna flip it this time, and I'm gonna start from my bottom square. So it'll be Dan that takes this one up again first. And the question is, how have you in the past used the law to benefit or help a community that you cared about? And that question, by the way, you guys, is in our chat. So if you forget, I'm sharing those there for you so that you can reference it. And cool. That's the question. How have
Right.
you in the past used a lot of benefit or help a community you care about?
I think most people, when they get to know me a bit, they know that I spend a lot of time in the disability and the mental health arena, right? So that is not only the work that I kind of stumbled into as a public defender and then as a county solicitor, but it's the work that I've done as a special education attorney, and then in Harrisburg, writing bills and amendments to help this community in particular. Look, obviously, I think most people would acknowledge that the Americans with Disabilities Act was one of probably our last really big civil rights legislation that was passed out of DC. Incredibly impactful with its scope and the intent behind it. Unfortunately, there are limitations to it. Still, there are aspects of the human experience for those with disabilities that are not really touched under the ADA, and there are things that weren't really addressed enough under that. It is a community to which I have benefited both not only on the professional side as far as building the expertise, but personal side as far as getting in touch with and making a lot of friends and sharing things with. Look, most of my practice has to deal in this area. One of the things that I often talk about is when a child comes up with a disability, which is more the type of work that I did in family court. We'll come into situations where judges don't really know enough or haven't really been instructed enough, educated enough as to the difference between an intellectual disability and a developmental disability, for example. Those things can be structurally, of course, very impactful to understand. They also would maybe not understand with a truancy matter or something else, maybe on a dependency side, the difference between a 504 plan and an IEP plan, and what they mean in relation to learning. Those are like key examples of things that in my law practice, I've spent a lot of time to try and effectuate the intent behind the law for all that, but to be sure that in court, when you're addressing, I'm saying children in this regard, but anybody who fits in the disability or mental health arena, you have to understand their lens, and that lens is never going to get turned off. It's never going to go away. And so those aspects there I find to be incredibly meaningful and impactful, and it's a community I spend a lot of time with.
All right, thank you. Amy, how about you? How have you in the past used a lot of benefit or help a community that you care about?
Yeah, so right after law school, I clerked for the Honorable Christine Ward in the Civil Division. And while I was there, I helped start and then run the name change court and it is designed for trans individuals in Allegheny County to be able to safely obtain name changes without fear of retaliation. So before we had this particular process, trans individuals would have to show up to open court where it's a room full of attorneys who have no idea why they're there. The judge has no idea why they're there. They may have never heard of a name change petition before. And it was pretty traumatic. And on top of that, they also had to publish their name change in 2 local papers for some amount of days. Not only is that costly, but it also creates the fear of retaliation both in housing and in work. And so as a result, we started a specific name change court where it is a completely celebratory thing where people can get their name changes with their friends and family there to cheer them on.
Awesome. Well, look, yeah, you got that right in 60. You guys, we found a timer. So applause to our producer John for finding us a timer for these in this lightning round. Let's go ahead. Thank you, Amy. Let's go down. Who do I have next? Who's in my box? Lauren.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. How have you in the past used a lot of benefited community that you care about?
Yes. So for me, a big part of my life is the immigrant community and helping those folks. So before I started my practice out here in Allegheny County at the Public Defender's Office, it's actually how me and my wife met. We found asylum seekers who were actually separated from their family, and we found this gray area in the law where you could sue the federal government, basically for a tort claim, which is a very fancy way of saying you can get the monetary compensation for the harm that was caused by the federal government as they were separated from their family. We got to interview clients in North Carolina, Texas, California, New Mexico. It was an amazing experience. And that really just taught me how you can combine statutory law, where you can kind of find these wiggle rooms and apply it sometimes in criminal settings and get really great outcomes for folks. And to me, that was just so impactful to help the immigrant community and try to make them whole when their lives have been torn up so much.
All right. Thank you. Judge Bridges, how about you? How have you in the past used a law to benefit or help a community you care about?
Well, there was one time that I put on a forum for the youth at my church. The young people, it was called Driving While Black. And so that we thought that that was a very important thing for our young people, because especially our young boys, we wanted to share with them the importance of making sure they had their documents in the car, in a particular place in the car, glove box specifically, making sure that they are aware of what they have. And those are the documents that the police will ask for if they get stopped. We also recommended for them to not ride in the car with several people, like 4 people in a car, even though that is legally okay to do. For it draws attention to law enforcement when a bunch of Black kids are in a car together. So it was also recommended that they didn't do that. We actually also had a police officer from the township where I go to church, and it was a white police officer. And he did admit that when he sees several Black boys in a car together, he automatically believes that something illegal is happening. Now, I thought that that was really good that he admitted that, because the only way you can make change is to acknowledge that you have that bias in you. And so we talked about that. And so I thought that it was really a good program to do for the kids, so that they are always aware that they have to be safe, because every parent wants their kid to come back home to them safely, and how they can't be argumentative. They can't, even if you have a right to do it, that you just shouldn't do it in that moment. So we gave a lot of tips to the kids in order to keep them safe while driving.
All right, thank you. Judge Stevens, how about you? How have how have you in the past used the law to benefit or help a community you care about?
Well, I get to use alternative adjudication programs in my court as a magisterial district judge, and that involves a lot of community service. So in lieu of fines and costs and punishment, I impose mandatory community service hours, where they can do usually it's the younger groups that run into some trouble. They can do some community service hours through a nonprofit organization that they're choosing, like a food bank, a shelter, some type of church, where they can get the hours in lieu of no further punishment. I also use drug and alcohol and mental health programs, and I would give credit for time served if they complete those programs. We also have the ability to wipe out fines and costs for people that don't have the ability to pay. I've worked with the public defender's office in conjunction with that program. If they show proof that they completed an inpatient program or served some time in jail, I'm able to wipe out fines and costs for people.
Nice. Thank you. Amanda, how about you? How in the past have you used a law to benefit a community that you care about?
Well, Royce, I believe I do this every day in the work that I do, fighting for fairness for workers and their dignity and respect for the past 25 years almost. And some of this work includes, making sure that people who are transitioning have bathroom access. Some of this work includes making sure that people are getting those fair wages that they're supposed to be paid according to our collective bargaining agreements. It could also mean, fighting for healthier and safer workplaces, because let's admit or recognize that there are people who went to work today who will not come home because of a workplace accident. And so fighting on behalf of workers for all of these things and everything that they deserve is what I do each and every day, and I'm proud to do it.
All right. Thank you. And finally, Judge Cowan, how about you? How have you in the past used the law to help or benefit a community that you care about?
Sure. So I went to law school specifically to improve the court system for court involved children and families. I was a professional school social worker before going to law school. I have my master's degree in social work. And I was going to court with my court involved families and just seeing this huge disconnect between the application of the law in the courtroom and the actual lived lives of families outside of the courtroom. So I really wanted to bridge that gap. And when I was a staff attorney at Kids Voice, I helped to develop the medical and educational unit where we were providing holistic representation to our kids. So we were there with our kids in their school districts to help them access any of the services and to be treated fairly and equitably with the kids who were not court involved, making sure that they had the same access to extracurriculars, making sure that they were not being put into alternative education classrooms without all the proper protocols and due process, making sure that they had access to all the special education services that they would qualify for, and then also representing our kids in their behavioral health and medical settings, and then bringing all of that information back to the courthouse to say, hey, judge, this is what's going on in the whole life of this child. Let's do better with our decision making in the courtroom on behalf of the kids. And I'm really, really proud of really awesome outcomes that we had for kids with that model.
Thank you all. I loved all of your answers, and thank you, for your continued work, respectively, in all of those things that you guys are doing to go above and beyond in your current role. So thank you for that. We have one final question this evening, and this is the super lightning round here, and that is why should the people of Allegheny County vote for you? So I'll go back to the original order and start with Judge Cowan on that question. Why should the people of Allegheny County vote for you? And we'll keep that 60-second clock up for this question as well.
I'd really appreciate the votes on May 20th because I have dedicated my whole career to improving the court system for kids and families. I was appointed by Governor Josh Shapiro to fill a vacancy in the family division. I am passionately dedicated to remaining a judge in the family division and applying an interdisciplinary approach using both my master's degree in social work and my judicial training to provide a fair, unbiased, and accessible courtroom to all families in Allegheny County.
All right. Thank you. Amanda, why should the people of Allegheny County vote for you?
The people of Allegheny County should vote for me because I certainly have the experience, 25 years of legal experience fighting for fairness and civil and human rights for all workers and for all people within our society. And I also have the integrity, the record of compassion, and certainly the temperament. And I think that during this time that we're in right now, it's even more important that we have judges on the bench with integrity. And I certainly have a record of that. And I say I have an unflinching integrity in the face of threats and repercussions. That is not an exaggeration. Through my public service, I have had to stand up to many people who have wanted me to do something different and who have actually threatened me and made calls to people who could try to do things to make me do something other than what was the right thing to do. And so I am certainly a trusted public servant, and I would appreciate the people's vote on May 20th, on or before May 20th.
All right. Judge Stevens, how about you? Why should the people of Allegheny County vote for you?
Well, first, I would be honored to have the votes of the people of Allegheny County on May 20th. My many years of dedicated public service, first as a county solicitor, as a township commissioner, and now 10 years as a magisterial district judge, serving my community. I have the experience. I have the temperament. I treat people with compassion and empathy, and I'm fair. I've always practiced fair and balanced justice. I'm highly recommended by the Allegheny County Bar Association. I volunteer my time on Sundays with One Hood, helping distribute food and clothing to the unhoused and the marginalized, and also assisting them with some legal questions and helping them navigate through the legal system. So I would be honored to have the support of the people on May 20th. Thank you.
All right. Judge Bridges, why should the people of Allegheny County vote for you?
Thank you. Governor Shapiro appointed me to serve on the Court of Common Pleas. I am assigned to the criminal division. I have 28 years of experience as a trial attorney. So I know how to work in a courtroom as a lawyer. I have tried many, many different types of cases and jury trials, non-jury trials, various types of motions I have argued before the court, and now I'm also serving as a judge in the Court of Common Pleas. So I have the experience as the lawyer, and now I have the experience as the judge. And so I've dedicated my entire career to public service, and so I believe that I would not disappoint anyone if they vote me in to be the next please judge. I will continue to work hard for the support of the people in the community. I do not take this endorsement lightly, and I appreciate yours vote on or before May 20th. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Lauren, how about you? Why should the people of Allegheny County vote for you?
Yes, for me, it's because I'm a public defender with a proven record of not just advocating for our marginalized communities, but also to me, it's very important to be proactive with creating programs, things that are protecting the immigrants' rights, helping out the LGBTQ community. To me, I don't want to be complacent in the system. I don't want to be here for another decade in the Court of Common Pleas and keep seeing the injustices happening to our communities. So for me, my work is always going to be rooted in the belief that everyone deserves fairness, empathy, and justice. And to me, we shouldn't be afraid of empathy. We should be uplifting our communities. And that's exactly what I plan on doing. And that's why I hope the people of Allegheny County vote for me on May 20th.
Okay. Amy, how about you? Why should the people of Allegheny County vote for you?
Sure. First, I think that they should vote for everyone on the slate. So that's the first part. But besides that, I'm going to just talk a little bit about why I decided to run. I actually married my wife the Saturday before the November 2024 election. And I had no plans on running for any office before that day. But we woke up still on our honeymoon, and I started questioning whether my marriage would be legitimate for the rest of my life. And I know people all over the county woke up with similar or equally as scary fears about their rights and their family and their safety here. And so I think that we need judges who not only understand the law, who are not only fair and committed to making our court system accessible, but I think we need judges who understand what's at stake right now for marginalized communities. And I am dedicated to protecting our civil rights from the bench. Thank you.
All right. And Rep Miller, how about you? Why should the people of Allegheny County vote for you?
Yeah, thank you. And look, I'm very honored to have had the support of not just this slate, but so many others, from Josh Shapiro to Austin Davis and Congress and Senate reps and so many others. And look, my whole goal has been to try and run a campaign that brought as many people together as possible. Right. That's what I've been trying to do from when I was a Democratic whip to trying to make deals in the courts. It just, my goal is to try and bring people together to find a way through together and hopefully elevate some issues that can make a difference. Look, I've been around for a bit with it. I'm very proud of my record in the disability mental health community. It is a lens to which I spend most of my time sort of viewing. That's all in the courts. Right. That's what inundates our court system. It's where I spent years, 3 or 4 days a week for years doing my practice as a public defender, as a county solicitor. And I just am finishing up doing 11 plus years right now in the House, where I write and interpret law and debate its constitutionality right there. So I think that I bring a good combination together, and I'm proud to be part of the slate. And I hope I get one of your votes with the slate for May 20th.
All right. So, you guys, I came into this with a personal goal to have you out of here by 8. And I really was trying my best to do that. But I want the best of luck for all of you. And I'm superstitious. And we always have to end the Power Hour with this one question. And each of you has to answer it. And that is, what brings you joy? If you don't answer it, I don't know what will happen. And I don't want to find out. So I like I said, I don't want to put any bad juju out there. So I want you guys to have the opportunity to answer that. We are a superstitious show. So I'll start with you. I'll go back down. I'll start with you. Dan, what brings you joy?
I feel bad on this one. We just talked about this earlier. Look, it is what it is. My answer is always going to be my son. So everything about it, my son brings me joy every day with it. I'm very blessed. I'm very proud of everything he does. 18 years old, graduating in a month. Got a band going on and all this great stuff. Working a second-degree black belt. It's just fantastic to watch him be involved in his life, and being his dad's my favorite thing.
All right, Amy, how about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go like not sentimental at all and say Pitt women's volleyball brings me the most joy.
Okay, hey, fair answer. Oh, heck yeah, Lauren, what about you?
For me, I always like going where it's warm. And to me, that's with my family, my chosen family and friends. There's nothing better than having a game night and some good Chinese takeout or sushi food, whatever we can get, and just having that downtime and making community. I love yapping, and so just being able to do that with my loved ones, it always brings me joy.
Nice. Judge Bridges, what about you? What brings you joy?
My children also bring me joy, 27 and 25 years old, and also going home to Tennessee. I have a very big family. They bring me joy. It is so exciting to be among family with laughter and games and music and dancing. And that's the center of my joy.
Nice. All right. Judge Stevens, what about you? What brings you joy?
For me, it has to be my kids. I have twins. I have a boy and a girl. They're 19. My son just finished up his freshman year at Pitt. He did very well. My daughter just actually came home today from Duquesne. So I'm very proud of them and the people that they've turned out to be. And thank God they have their mother's looks. And that's on a personal level. On a professional level, what brings me joy is helping people, seeing people successful, being successful, and getting through and completing programs and getting back and being productive members of society.
Awesome. Thank you. Amanda, what about you?
My kids, my son and my daughter, and the looks on their faces when they're experiencing something new for the first time and enjoying themselves. Yeah, can't beat it.
Nice. And finally, Judge Cowan, what brings you joy?
My kids and the county parks, and preferably all of that together, whether it's Shinley Park when my little ones were little with soccer and the ice skating rink, or now that they're bigger, runs in North Park on the weekends. I live in between North Park and Hartwood Acres, so my favorite joyful things are just being with my kids in our county parks. We are so fortunate here in Allegheny County to have beautiful parks, and any family time I can get in the parks during my off hours, I relish.
Great. Awesome. You guys, thank you all so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to sit down and talk to us this evening. We did make sure our producer, John, I think, has popped all of your websites in the comment section. So you don't even have to tell us where to find you. It's right there. And there we go. So thank you all so much, and best of luck to all of you. And yeah. Well, hopefully we'll be talking to you again very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Nice.
All right, so thank you. So we also want to thank our guests. We thanked our guests. We also want to thank our viewers, you at home, for watching this program this evening. Before we close out, some of you may have already received your mail-in ballots. By the way, you can drop them off at the following locations, or you can apply in person and vote this weekend from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's the weekend of the 10th and 11th. And these are those locations for you. That's CCAC Homewood, North Park Ice Rink, South Park Ice Rink, and the county office building as well. One Hood Power focuses on building power by reaching out to our communities who've been traditionally excluded, forgotten, and under-resourced. While we engage all voters, we specifically focus on the policies and platforms to improve the quality of life of our Black, people of the global majority, disabled, queer, youth, immigrant, and Muslim communities. Thank you guys so much again for watching this evening. My name is Royce Jones. I'm your host, and we will see you next week on the One Hood Power Hour.